Okay, welcome everybody. Nice to see you today. This is Office Hours here at LinkedIn Learning. I'm Drew Boyd, your host. And first of all, I want to acknowledge that we have got quite a nice group of people attending today. I looked through some of the attendees, and it was a real pleasure to see a lot of people here with the title of theirs with the words key account in them. Some of you clearly are dealing with big issues as a key account manager, so good for you for joining us today. I also see some familiar names out there. I see Guzu Shalev from Israel. Guzu, it's always nice to see your name. And I see friends from Canada. I see folks from overseas in Europe. A lot of Europeans today, as well as here in the U.S. So thanks for joining me. You know, key account management is one of my courses on LinkedIn Learning, and it's a very popular course. I thought some other courses of mine would be more popular, but this one continues to surprise me in its popularity. And it's a nice little course because I think we all struggle with this issue of how do we keep accounts forever. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever gotten the dreaded feeling that your very best account has left you? You know, that icky feeling where they're just not answering your phone calls. They're not responding to your emails. The business with them has sort of declined. It's coming unraveled. And it's probably happened to all of you, I'm willing to bet. It has certainly happened to me. And it happened to me with one of my best accounts, favorite accounts. It's a large retailer here in the U.S. I won't mention any names, but let's just say this large retailer puts on a very big parade around Thanksgiving time. And I was working with them for years, 4 to 5 years in their leadership training center, their leadership institute, teaching a variety of topics on creativity for leadership, marketing strategy, and skills of persuasion. And what happened was I made one of the fatal flaws that I'm going to talk about in this live stream. I didn't really see the change in the winds. I didn't see how the old guard, the old people running the institute were about to leave and be replaced by new people, and I didn't do anything to prepare for it. And so I was left flat-footed, and I don't do any work with them today, and it's big disappointment. And had I followed the principles I'm going to share with you in this live stream, I might still be in there today. Who knows? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and just kind of walk through some key points for you. I like to keep these short, 30 minutes, so that it's not a big tax on your day, and we can give you some quick intel, some quick things to think about that you can put into action immediately, for your business. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to start with this idea that key account management, one of the things that you've got to realize right off the bat, excuse me, let me see what's going on here and get my slides moving a little differently. They're good. One of the big mistakes that you can make in key account management is you want to make all your accounts key. And you can't do that. All accounts are important, I agree, but not all accounts are key accounts. And so you're going to have to make some choices right off the bat. And why this is important is if you really do create key accounts, it's going to allow you to devote the resources to do it right, to retain them forever. And if you dilute your resources over many accounts, you're setting yourself up for failure. And so you need to right away start thinking about what are the criteria that you're going to create and apply for key account selection, and then stick to it. Now, those criteria can be anything you want. It should be something that you all as a leadership team agree with, and then you apply them systematically to all your accounts to see which ones make the cut and which ones don't. And let me give you an example. I'm a key account, a high value customer with Delta Airlines. I fly a lot, so I'm in their top tier program. And I get a lot of benefits that if all of a sudden everybody started getting those same benefits, and it's just an expectation. It's nothing special. So you're doing yourself a favor and your key account favor by isolating them and giving them some privileges and some resources that the others don't get. Now, what criteria you choose, it's up to you. My initial sense is you should probably always have some sort of profitability criteria. Who is your most profitable account? You should understand a rank ordering of your account profitability anyway, but then cut it off at maybe the top 5% or the top 1%. It's up to you, again. And it doesn't have to be just profitability. It could also be things like how new the account is or how old the account is, or it could be a strategic account that also gives you access to other resources that are important to you. You know who your key accounts are, and it's important that you articulate what those criteria really are, and then really stick to it of what you want to do with that account. Now, let me get in here a little bit. I'm going to change my view. Now, one of the things that you want to realize with key accounts is that to succeed with a key account, you have to create what I call the key account task and the key account management goal, which is really retention. Retention is why you do key account management. It is not about selling more products and services. If you go into a key account and just send in your top sales rep, that's not what they want. They already understand your business. They already have a good idea of where your products and services fit. So if you send in your ace sales rep in there, it'll drive everybody crazy. It is not about selling more products and services. It is about doing the things to make you indispensable so that you continue to get sales from them for the long term. And so, believe me, a long-term, years and years of sales is going to be worth its much more value to you than just a 1-2 year bump because you sent in some superstar sales rep who managed to grow the account by a lot, and God only knows how they did it. You don't want to sacrifice long-term success for short-term sales goals. Don't make this mistake. Now, when you create a key account manager, or if you are a key account manager, here's an important thing you want to understand. You want to understand what's called the KAM, which stands for Key Account Management. What is the KAM task? Kind of like your job, but think of it this way. I want you to think now about creating a formalized task that has these 4 elements to it. Your KAM task should, first of all, describe exactly who we're targeting. And when I say that, I mean by name. You ought to have the name of the specific decision maker who is most responsible for keeping your company in the account. Who is your key point of contact, your go-to, who is the most powerful person, as far as you're concerned, that can make a change with respect to your account? Might be the CEO, it might be the vice president of operations, it might be the head of purchasing. Typically, it's not a purchasing person. Typically, it's going to be one of the functional areas of the business that you are providing products and services to. Get down to that one, or maybe it's a couple people. So who are you targeting? And then be very clear what you're trying to do with that person. And I'm going to give you some guidance on that in just a minute. You want to have that person by name, and then, man, your job is to make yourself a huge resource in the eyes of that person or those few select people that you are targeting. Then we're going to talk about programs. What are some of the cool things that you can do for a key account management, for a key account? They're going to make them love you and retain you forever. There's a lot of fun and interesting things that you can do that I'm going to cover today. So, and then finally, it's important, I think, in your task, you ought to have a clear idea of where you get support within the company and establish those lines of communication. So, for example, it could be, say, somebody in finance is helping you with reports on the activity with respect to this account. It could be somebody in operations who's helping you fill back orders. It could be somebody in human resources that's helping you with help coming up with leads for this company to do more hiring. It could be a number of different people, but your success is going to be dependent on your ability to identify those specific people and have them in your Rolodex. Have them in the favorites section of your smartphone, so that you've established a good rapport, a working rapport. They know the importance of this account like you do, and they're doing everything they can do to help you when you have those last minute calls and last minute favors. You need your go-to internal team to keep you productive and viable. That's it. Just 4 items. Who are we targeting? What are we trying to do? How are we going to do it? What programs? And then where do we get support? Okay, so I'm going to look over to see how we're doing on comments. Feel free to post comments here. We're tracking this. I'm tracking it. And my teammate, Darla Wilkinson, is also tracking. If you have questions, feel free to put them out in the comments, and we'll do our best to get to those. Checking our time here. Want to go for about another 15 minutes or so. And I'll try to leave time at the end for questions as well. So let's move on then, and let's talk about this issue of your role with the key account contact. Guess what? Your first job is really to not worry about your success. Your job is to help that key contact with their success. You want to help your key contact be successful in their career. What does that look like? Well, I recommend you get to know that person in terms of their career path. Go to their LinkedIn profile, look at their background, their educational background, their work history, look what groups they belong to. Really do a deep dive on who that person is. If they're a little bit about their personal life, and I mean within bounds, right? Don't be a creeper. don't stalk this person, but get to know them, and just go into their office and look around, and you'll see things in their office that will tell you a lot. Pictures of their family, their interests, maybe books that they read, or if they sports that they follow, or teams that they follow. Get to know these people at a level of detail like you would know your best colleague at work. You need to not only understand what path that they've been on, but where are they headed in the future? What is their next step? Because I have news for you. They're not going to be there forever. And if they see you as actively working to make them successful, they will want to keep you right by their side. You're going to become very, very important to them. And how can you help them? Lots of ways. You can give them information about you here inside the company or outside. You can check in with how their relationship is with their boss, with their peers, with their team members. Give them become a confidant to that person to help them get to the next level. And I think it's perfectly fine to have a candid conversation with them. Where do you see as your next job? What can I be as a resource to you to help you get there? That's what I'm going to do. Man, I'll tell you what, nothing is more like music to their ears than a person that can be a resource to them, a trusted resource. That's number one. Number two is you have to identify and groom your key contact successor. The sad fact is, and this is what happened to me at my account, Macy's, the large retailer, I did not see things coming that these people would be replaced. And what happened was a new team came in that I didn't know. I maybe had met the new boss of this institute once, and I didn't really have a relationship. I was starting from scratch. And that's what happened. And that's what you don't want to happen. Try to get a sense of who are the most likely candidates for your key contact successor, who's going to fill their shoes, and start grooming your relationship with them now. Look, your contact is going to get promoted. They're going to transfer somewhere else in the company, leave the company, retire, have a illness, some other reason they leave, maternity leave. It could be some other family leave. Who knows? So don't wait until the change happens. Do something about it before it happens. And number 3 here, actually, I said 4 here, but it's really number 3. I want you to think about it this way. Your job really is not to sell more product and service. It's really to infiltrate the company. And I don't mean that in an untoward way, in an illegal or unethical way at all. It's not infiltrating in that sense. But it's really getting your value proposition to show up everywhere. It should show up everywhere. In real estate, the old joke is what's most important is location, location, location. Well, in key account management, it's similar. It's remind, remind, and remind again. Remind them of why you bring value, what your products and services do for that company, and do it consistently in little ways, big ways, at every part in the company. I'm going to give you some suggestions of where and how you do that. But you're a walking, talking value proposition beacon of what you stand for. That's your job, is to get all the people in the company to realize what services and products your company provides to the account so that they appreciate it and understand it. And don't forget about it. Your competitors are knocking on the door all the time. And you want to remind people, or they just go to the next new shiny object and you're out the door. So you have to constantly remind your clients of your value. I mean, not your key contact. I mean, the rank and file employees. I call it working the building. You've got to work the building top and bottom and really, really understand what's going on in that company. In my former life in the medical device field, we had field salespeople who were just outstanding at working with hospitals. And I went on a sales call with one of these guys one time. It wasn't a key account, but it was the same concept. And this sales professional took me with him to an account I'll never forget. It was down in Mississippi. And we didn't come in through the front door of the hospital. I was surprised. I thought, well, that's weird. We drove into the back of the hospital, and we came into the hospital through the loading dock, through the back, the back loading dock. And we walked into the loading dock, and my colleague from sales looked at the loading dock manager and said, "Hey, Tom, how are you, buddy? How's your daughter doing with that recital?" I was pretty impressed, right? This sales rep who deals with very, very important doctors, medical doctors and CFOs and C-suite executives at the hospital. He knew the loading dock guy, his name, something about him personally. He had really started the infiltration at really at the bottom of the rung. Then we walked through the purchasing office, and that was just so memorable to me because in the purchasing manager's office, you could see a group of about 10 sales reps from other companies sitting there waiting to get past the gatekeeper. And my colleague just took me and walked right past them all, looked at the receptionist and said, "Oh, hi, Sherry. How are you today? Good to see you." Walked right by and straight into the hospital. Now, that's a guy that really knows how to work the building and really made himself a valuable asset at numerous levels with all parts of that account. It was pretty impressive. And, is it hard to do? Not really, but you can see it's not about selling so much as it is about personal relationships, building your value proposition up and down in the building. All right, so let's talk about some things that you can do. What are some things that might help you with an account? What are the sources of value? So I'm going to give you a list of some ideas of where you can bring value to your key accounts. And I'm checking in here for questions. Let's see here. Darla's tracking these for me. Maria Segretti, why wouldn't you want to upsell this type of account? Maria, that's a great question. Nice to see you, Maria, one of my former students, and really doing some great work out in her business. Maria, you don't upsell in a key account. If you're providing value, they will want to know more about your products. If they see you're there to upsell, then they're no longer a key account. They're just another account that you're trying to upsell to. So I really find it important that you make that distinction between key account support and key account selling. Get a different person in there to sell. Another question from Ahmad, and he is a molecular biologist and a key account manager. How to convince your boss that KAM is not a sales rep? Well, you could invite them to this live stream, but seriously, that is a classic question. And you know what? Make your boss a key account. Kind of convince your boss that their success is going to be dependent on long-term retention. And you've got to sell the value of retention versus acquisition. Show the revenue stream of 20 years from this account versus a small upsell with a 5-year run rate, for example. Show the numbers. Get a finance colleague involved to show how different scenarios will lead to different financial results. And then another question before we move on here from Prashant. He's an operational marketing leader. How do we ensure that they will be loyal to us, and not shift to competition just for low price? Well, that's the whole point. If you are identifying them as a key account, and you are making them understand your value so that price doesn't become the object. You need to lower the importance of price and raise the importance of your value. Hey, price is only a problem if value is a problem. They will pay for value if they recognize it. So I would say if you're having a problem with they're always threatening to leave for a lower price, that's because you haven't sold your value enough. Now, there are other tactics you can do in pricing, and maybe I'll do one of these live streams all about pricing. That might be a good idea in the future. But you can also think about some other things to bolster your value in the eyes of, in a pricing sense, to prevent them from defecting. Great question. But I think this is the whole thing. If you keep a great relationship and bring other sources of value, like I'm going to talk about now, then I think it gives you some defense around them leaving for a low cost competitor. Okay, how do you help your key account? Well, you can be a great source of market intel. You can be a great source of market trends. Track their competitors and let them know. Unless you are an insider to their competitors, never bring information from one competitor to another that you gained from inside information. It's in many countries, like here in the U.S., it's illegal. So you can bring them intel and market trends from the Wall Street Journal or from the Financial Times. So market intel, great way. They're busy, and when you show them that you've got your eye on the ball and watching what's going on, man, they take notice of that, and they want you around, especially during planning season when you're starting to do strategic and marketing plans. I'm not going to be surprised that they want to have a sit-down meeting with you and just check in and see what's going. Another great way to work with your key account is sponsoring events that they are holding. You might sponsor something just like a marketing meeting, an off-site meeting, if it's allowed, if you're allowed to pay for that. If they are participating in a big event, let's say a charity for cancer and they are going to do some sort of big event, well, you know, jump in and be part of it too, and pay for some of it, or put people out there to help them, make them successful with their events. Get involved with the things that they're doing all around the building. They're busy, and you can really add more interest and a better outcome for those events if you get involved. Speaking of events, I think it's incredibly important for you to help recognize people within the company. You can be a good source of recognition. Everybody loves recognition. And so, you know, you can imagine calling out people in different parts of the organization and recognizing them, or creating an award that is named after your company, and you give it to, you know, the person who is, you know, the employee of the month, or the an employee who does something spectacular in maybe some nonprofit activities. The Good Samaritan Award, anything that recognizes people for their performance, you bring that, and people will like you for that. Hey, everybody needs more customers, and you know, when you bring them referrals, that's gonna be noteworthy. Get with the salespeople, especially the sales leaders. Let them see you as helping fill that funnel. Go out and get some leads for them, and that's directly going into their funnel, ultimately hitting their bottom line. They need that. What about training programs? Here's an interesting one that I think is not used enough. If you're running any kind of training in your company, why not invite employees from their company, from your key account, to join you? I think that's pretty cool. And that gives you then the cachet to show them just how good you are in the ways you train your people. Share training programs, you know, give them expertise. You lend them expertise and advice, not just your personal expertise, but maybe you have an expert. Maybe you have a microbiologist, like one of our attendees today, who has really great knowledge that can be shared with the client. Shared resources, you know, maybe you have warehouses that could be shared. You have IT resources, servers. You have other things that are excess capacity that maybe your client can take advantage of, and share those resources to lower their costs. That's pretty cool. They will appreciate that. Bottom line is, you want to be a person that's seen as somebody that identifies and helps them solve problems. You're not upselling. You're really bringing value the old-fashioned way. And then finally, you know, measure results. And I'm going to keep this quick because I want to answer some of these questions here. Whenever you measure your activities, measure your efforts, your inputs, how much you spend or how much time you spend. Measure your outputs. Outputs, especially like customer satisfaction. Do a survey. Are certain employees overall happy with the service they're getting from you? Would they be willing to recommend? And this one, I can't emphasize it much. That is so important, the willingness to recommend. So, you know, keep that in mind as another source of value. So let me get some of these questions up here. And I'm going to go in reverse order, if you don't mind. What if the account has a long procurement process which compares our prices with competition through RFPs? Look, the purchasing people are there to do one thing. They want to separate your value proposition from the price so they can beat you up on price. I'm sorry to say it. Yeah, I'm going to have a live stream on price because I can see this is a key issue with you. You're there to force that conversation back together. A long-term procurement process is to put you at a disadvantage. If you work the building and get your value proposition infiltrated into the company, it's going to help fight back. This is from Amjad. What if the key account has a long procurement? Okay, we already answered that. What would you do if the key account champion keeps pushing out your meetings with them? You know, it's a red flag. And here's what I do in that case. And we're going a little past our time here. I apologize, but the questions that are coming in now are just too good to pass up here. So what do you do if your key account just isn't taking your calls? Here's what I teach my graduate students, and this is the technique that I would use. I would go into the account and say, hey, I just want to check in with you, nothing in specific, but just in general. I get a sense we're not on, maybe not on steady ground. I just want to see where you are. And let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think?
Sorry, could you say that again?
I think Siri just thought I was talking to her. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think we're doing as a company for you? And your key contact may say, "Oh, you guys are doing great. You're a solid 8." And you say, 8, good. That's pretty good. What would it take to get to a 10? Get the moose on the table. You're there to have the maturity and the courage to look right in the client's eyes and say, hey, I get the feeling it's not right. Let's fix things. Can we do that? Big part of your job, no doubt about it. Okay, so what other questions do we have here? Let's see. Okay, from Angie Farag. She's a business development team lead. Angie, thanks for being here. And let's see, what do you do with lost accounts that refuse to speak with you? Move on. If you've lost them, I have a little file in my computer. It's called inactive accounts. And I just call it and put them there. I go back and look at them every so often to see if there's a way to reactivate them. But it may be time to let the palette refresh. I think the other thing is you want to do what's called a win-loss analysis, a debrief, a post-mortem, and really do the post-mortem and understand why you lost the account. What were the factors? Did a key person leave? Did you have complaints? And because, hey, all you can do from failure is learn from it. In fact, failure is the only thing that gives you a chance to learn something. So you're making a big mistake if you don't take an opportunity to learn. Maybe come back to them in 6 months, say, hey, I understand we've lost the account, and we really did appreciate our time with you. Would you be willing to give us, if we some neutral feedback about why that might have happened? People can be, pretty honest with you. They're going to help you where they can. So let's see if we have any other questions here. That's it. No more questions. Okay. So I want to thank you all for being here. I hope this was valuable for you. Next week, we are going to dive into and feature another one of my courses on LinkedIn Learning called The 6 Biases of Decision Making. And it's a fun discussion about some of the things we do every day in our jobs and in our lives to make mistakes with decisions. And I want to share with you my experiences and how you can avoid these decision traps and make better decisions in your day-to-day life. You all have a great day and hope to see you at our next event next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.